Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us your takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review our show. And if you're listening on Spotify, there's a new feature where you can rate our show as well. Now, let's get to the show. Rip City, baby. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Lift off and the clock has started.
Rip City, what is going on? This is episode 45 of the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. I'm Alex. I've got Fawad here with me tonight. How are you doing, Fawad?
I'm doing good. It's a long weekend here in Canada. Doesn't really matter for me since I'm in summer, but my whole family is off, so it was nice, not bad.
Yeah, and you just broke the news to me that there was a new Thor trailer, so I just watched that before we started the podcast, and it looks pretty funny and interesting, and I'm kind of excited to see it. As long as also, I don't know if you're a fan of Jurassic Park, but that's coming out soon, and I'm excited to watch that too. Or sorry,
Yeah,
Jurassic World.
I've been seeing trailers for it, but I haven't seen any of the new ones or the old ones, so that's not.
Ooh. Oh, we got to get you on that.
Um,
Well, let's
yeah.
talk about what we came to talk about and what everybody's on here to listen to. First and foremost, shout out to us. It feels weird saying that, but this is technically a couple days after our 1-year anniversary of starting this podcast. So everybody that has listened, that is still listening, me and Fawad and Mike appreciate you guys so much. Everybody that's in Discord, on Twitter, that throws out ideas to us and talks with us, and even on Reddit, we appreciate everything. We did not expect to do this for as long as we have, and we have enjoyed it. And I mean, at least for me, I don't want to speak for Fawad, but I've enjoyed it.
I actually really hate doing this every week. No, I'm just playing.
And
Yeah,
and
obviously enjoyed it.
and what's crazy is this season wasn't a very exciting season to talk about, and
Mhm.
I still feel like we had a good time doing it, and the listener podcasts are always enjoyable, and getting the guests on here. Speaking of guests, we will talk about. Well, we have a little more info at the end of the podcast, so stay tuned. But let's go ahead. Let's jump in. But anyways, to wrap everything up. Sorry, I'm all over the place already. It's been 1 year. It's been so fun talking with Fawad, talking with everybody. I appreciate everybody that's listened. Do you want to say anything?
No, I'll just echo everything you said. I appreciate every single person who listens to any of our episodes. I didn't think we would get, even like 10 listeners, and we've been getting 100 on some of our episodes, so that's just insane to me. And everyone who talks in our Discord, I really appreciate all of that too. And again, like you said, on Reddit, anything good, bad, it's all appreciated. We want to, continue to get better. So any feedback you have, even if it's negative, we appreciate every single little thing.
Yep. And also, I don't want to leave out, I know I said Discord and Twitter and everything. I want to shout out the podcast that I've joined, the podcast that have joined us, which is the Trailcasters and Point Nine podcast. We've had a couple people well, actually, I guess Trailcasters hasn't joined yet, but a couple from Point Nine has joined ours. So
You
shout
went on
out to
the
them.
Trailblazers though, right?
Yeah, I did go on the Trailcasters. So shout out to them for letting me join, and shout out to Point Nine for coming and joining, and I also joined them for one. And hopefully we can do both the Trailcasters and Point Nine and get them, get everybody, and we'll just do more podcasts and have a good time. But
Yeah, really
let's get
shout out
in.
to Trailcasters. They've been really nice and helpful to us as well, and just
Yes,
generally
very
overall.
much. Yes. So let's jump in to what we had to talk about today. I'm sure everybody that's a Blazer fan knows the NBA draft lottery happened, and we did not get lucky. The odds were that we would actually move down a spot, and we did. We ended up moving from 6 to 7, so we have the 7th pick in the NBA draft. So, with that being said, we wanted to talk. I know we had N4 come in and talk about the players higher up in the draft, but we wanted to now talk about a couple of the players that are kind of mocked to be around our pick, and kind of get our opinions on them, what we think should happen. And let me just put it out this way. I know we've said this in an interview or in a podcast before. I think the best move for us, depending on what's out there at the time our pick comes, is for us to trade our pick back. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's just first jump into the players themselves that are projected to be around our pick at 7. So the very first one I wanted to talk about is AJ Griffin. Fawad, do you want to start off with AJ Griffin?
You can start if you have something ready.
Okay. I think AJ Griffin. So here's my thing with any of these players that we pick. I'm not like overly excited for them. I think that these players are more of like, I don't want to say projects because they are good players, but like they're not the type of players that are going to help us win and the next 1 to maybe the third year they probably could.
They're
to
all
me,
pretty flawed in some way or another.
To me, any player we pick at 7 that's not, the top 3, and I'm going to throw Keegan Murray in there too because I'm really big on him. Any of those 4, I don't see anybody else helping us in the like win now mode that we are in right now. So to me, if we pick any of these players, it's almost like we're building for the future. So that's how I'm going to look at this. AJ Griffin is, I don't want to quote the wrong thing. I believe, let me just look before I sound like an idiot for saying this. He's 6'6", and I believe he has a 7-foot wingspan. So he's got a wide wingspan. He's an excellent 3-point shooter. I think he's probably the best 3-point shooter in the draft. The one thing I wanted to bring up about him when I was like I said a couple podcasts ago, I'm not the biggest college basketball fan, or not. I wouldn't say fan. I just don't watch a lot of it. I'm usually watching NBA. So really, once March Madness starts, that's when I'm watching. AJ Griffin has had, I think, ankle issues, if I remember right. So he kind of had limited minutes, and
I think he's the one that missed 2 years or something in high school, or
he coming out of high school he was hurt, so he didn't. Yeah, he played limited minutes in Duke, but he's still an excellent 3-point shooter. He's got a weird shot base. He's got his legs really far spread apart. As long as he's making it, I don't care. Look at Sean Marion. I mean, that dude had an ugly shot and he was making them. So it's a weird base, but he's an excellent 3-point shooter. He's a pretty good playmaker. I feel weird saying all these things because I truly don't know a lot about a lot of these guys. The one issue that I have seen with him, and like going back and kind of watching scouting videos and seeing what other people say, his defense is kind of lackluster, to say the least. He seems to be kind of slow. Like he doesn't have as much explosion, and that could very well be the injuries that he has. Like maybe the time off that he's had and strength training and everything, maybe it's gotten better, but he gets blown by a lot on ball. Like he looks to be a very poor on ball defender. So in my head, like I said, if we're picking one of these players, I'm not looking at it as Dame, whoever we pick, in that position. To me, it's Ant, whatever player we pick, Nas. That's the 3 you're looking at, because I don't think AJ Griffin's going to be like the piece that we're going to be like, yes, we got AJ Griffin. We're going to compete for a championship now. He's going to be the type of player that's going to grow with Ant and Nas, and hopefully, 5-6 years from now, he's a great player and helps us. So for me, AJ Griffin, although he's a great 3-point shooter, is pretty low on my, if we were to use our pick on who we would pick. Could he be a better defensive player in the NBA? Yeah. I mean, if he wants to dedicate himself to defense, I think so, but he's got a long enough wingspan too. So how do you feel about AJ Griffin?
Our opinions are too similar. We need to have more differing opinions in our podcast, because everything you said pretty much I feel the same way. But before I get into specifics, I just want to add a quick disclaimer for everyone I talk about, like I'm not the biggest college guy. So everything I'm seeing is just like from other people's mock drafts and stuff like that. So I could be way off on these people, and even like the best scouts are sometimes wrong on a lot of these players. So I could be way off, but this is my impression of these guys as of now from what I've read about them. So yeah, I think he's obviously a really good shooter. He's shot what, like 45% from three or something like that.
Something like that.
Um, and he does have the tools to be a good defender because of his wingspan. He looks pretty athletic as well. And he's really young. He's still 18 for a couple more months until August. So that is young. He'll have many years to continue improving. But at the same time, that also could be a negative since he's not NBA ready, or at least he probably won't be ready enough to contribute to playoff team, which we obviously hope to be. And then on top of that, like you said, he doesn't really seem to be a good defender, at least not now, which is a concern to me. And that's actually like the biggest concern to me because we don't really need um, a shooter. That's not our priority at all. We have so many good shooters on the roster already. We need someone who can defend. He's not really that guy right now. Maybe in a few years he will be. I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk or to wait that long. So, like you, he's pretty low on my list. If we keep the pick, I don't think I would want him, even though a lot of people have mocked him to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, we do kind of have the same opinions on a lot of things. So let's see how this continues and how it plays out. Next guy I want to talk about, a little more interesting if we do take him, is Jeremy Sohan. He's a forward from Baylor, 6'9", so he's gonna mostly probably be playing the four. The one thing with him I can say for sure, and I do know this, is his best asset is his defense.
Mm-hmm.
He is a madman on defense. The one issue that I have seen with him, because I have watched a couple Baylor games, is he does get into foul trouble, and that worries me. It kind of almost reminds me a little bit of Zach Collins, where Zach was a pretty decent defender, but he did a lot of stupid fouls trying to be a good defender. So that worries me a little bit. Offensively, he 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 shoots 47%. He shoots 3-pointers, but not as effective. I think he shot I think it was 30%.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking right now. He averaged 9 points a game. He played 25 minutes a game, which in college is right around normal, I would say. But to me, the biggest thing is he fills the issue at the four spot with defense. The offense is where the issue is going to be with him. And this is what me and Foad were talking about, where these players are more like development players that we're going to have to give them the experience and give them the time to, build and get better. They're not going to be like impact players for us right away. And that's the issue. And that's if we're wanting to win now, if that's the ultimate goal is to win in the next 1, 2, 3 years, that's what we need is impact players. That's only going to take 1 year to really develop. So for me, he's above AJ Griffin, but I would probably, of the four people, I would put him on second to last. He wouldn't be a terrible pick for the future, but I also wouldn't be upset if we didn't pick him either.
Agree with you for the most part, but not as much as the last one. A lot of Blazers fans on Reddit are really excited about him, and he's been shooting up like mock drafts a lot too. I think he was earlier just outside the lottery or like late lottery.
Yep.
Now a lot of people are putting him around like that 8, 9, 10 range. So that's I guess that's good that he's moving up. He must be showing something good to some people that matter. Um, but yeah, you covered his strengths and weaknesses pretty well. Obviously, he seems to be a really good defender, and his offense is very flawed. Which, for our roster, if I had to choose a flawed offensive player or a flawed defensive player right now, give me the flawed offensive player and hope that we can teach him that end. You can't teach defense as much. So I do think he could be a really good player if we develop him. Maybe, I hope our coaching staff is good at developing players. I think Stotts was good at that, so I hope Billups and his staff is also good. Um, but you know, like you said, he's a project, and this number seventh pick, it might be a little too high. If we could trade down, which we'll get into later, if we could trade down and get him, I would be really excited for that. I would love to get him at a lower spot. At 7, I'm a little hesitant, but um, if it comes down to it and we pick him, I wouldn't be upset with it at all. I think it could be a good pick. The other thing I'm a little bit concerned about is, college defense doesn't always translate,
Mm-hmm.
especially rookies. They go from playing college guys who are not NBA caliber to playing against like the best players in the world. And almost every single rookie starts off, even the good defensive ones, they have in their rookie year, they're not very good. Like this year was one of the rare exceptions where you had Evan Mobley, Herb Jones, who are already good defenders right from their rookie year, but that's not the norm. So I think that even though he is a good defender, it might take a year or two for him to be a good defender relative to the NBA. So that's another concern I have. So like everything is showing uh, he might take a couple of years to be, even rotation caliber. But I do think that he has potential, and I do want him on our team. I just don't know if 7 is the spot for him.
And honestly, that's a good point. Like I said, I wouldn't hate it if we took him, if that's the route we decide to go. But I actually agree with you. If we were able to trade down a little bit and then get him later, that would probably be the better option. So yeah, I do agree with you there. The next guy we wanted to talk about, for me at least, this is someone that I'm more open to the idea of taking at 7, and that's Jalen Duren. He, to me, is going to be one of the he could be another project kind of guy, but he defensively, he's in college, he was stellar at defense. I think he averaged 2 blocks a game, I think is what it was. I should have pulled this up while you were talking. I'm slacking. Um,
I can talk about my thoughts on him while you're looking it up.
yeah, go for it. Go for it.
He's probably one of the guys I know least about, so that's just a heads up. But he's a center. I am not too keen on picking a center, especially with a lottery pick. I think centers are the easiest, especially bench centers, which he would be for at least a few years while we have Nurk or whoever our starting center is. If we get Aiden, but he would be on the bench for at least a few years, and I think that's the easiest position to replace or to get. So I'm not too excited about him. He could turn out really good, but if we picked him, I guess it's okay. I just don't think it's our priority at all. And I, yeah, that's pretty much it. I just don't think he's a position of need, and I think we should. I would rather get a riskier wing than him at center.
Which those are fair points. I do think centers, especially with our luck with centers, let's put it that way, is scary. The thing that I do see with him is if we really wanted to, we could probably for a little bit play him at the 4. I know he's 6'11", he's 250, so he is kind of bigger, but he's got decent range. He's not like a great shooter, but he can space the floor a little bit. From the little bit I've seen and from like the scouting reports that I've seen, is he's a good playmaker, and he does have like shooting upside. So I do think we would have to develop it, but I do think it could be there. But to me, the most important thing, and it's going to be kind of the major theme here with a lot of the guys that I like, defense. He's going to be a great defensive player. Like I said, he averages 2 blocks a game. He's got long arms. I want to say when I looked, he had like a 7'5" wingspan. So he's got long arms. Once again, if we do decide to use the pick, I wouldn't hate it if we took him. A lot of people are saying that he could be, a high pick, that San Antonio could take him. That I think the other one I saw might have been Charlotte, but I could be wrong. Sorry. But I think it's worth, if we were to take somebody, I think he would be worth taking. Now, let's move on to this next guy. To me, if we are going to use our 7th pick, to me, this is the guy that we should pick. Barring if Keegan Murray was there somehow. That's if Keegan Murray's there. Let me just put it this way: if somehow the basketball gods bless us and say, yeah, you didn't get the first pick, but you are going to get Keegan Murray. If he is there at 7, to me, that's who we take. Like, it's not even a question to me. I don't know about you, but
If he's there at 7, you take him with your eyes closed. I think he's going to be a really good player, and he'll be able to contribute right away. So everything I see about him just gets me so excited and it gets me so frustrated that we didn't at least stay at 6. It was unlikely, but I think we might have been able to pull him off at 6. At 7, it's pretty much no chance.
yeah. So let's talk about the. I don't know. I was going to try to come up with a nickname for him real quick, but I couldn't. Benedict Mathurin, to me, Arizona, to me at 7, if he's there, and we're going to use that pick, to me, that's who we have to go after. Do you want to start or do you want me to go? Because I'm good with either way.
You can go.
To me, at 7, he's the best pick. I know I just said that, but he can do a little bit of everything. He can shoot, he can play make, he can play defense. He's athletic. He averaged 17.7 points, almost 6 rebounds, shooting 45%, 36% from 3, and I think actually no, sorry, I'm 37% from 3 this year. The year before he shot 41% from 3. So to me, out of all the players that could be there at 7, if he's there, he's the best pick. He can play shooting guard. He can play small forward. Like I said, he's quick. He's athletic. His defense is actually for being 6'6" and being, I wouldn't say he's undersized, but he definitely plays defense better than I would have expected. To me, like I said, he's my favorite. I don't want to like just keep harping over it, but if he's there at 7 and we are going to use our pick, to me, that's the guy that we go for. And if you think about it, like I said a little bit earlier with AJ Griffin, 4 years from now, Simons, Mathurin, and then Nas, that's a pretty good 1, 2, 3 lineup right there. What do you want to say about Benedict? He's got a cool name too, so.
Yeah, his name is definitely a sorry. His name is definitely a big plus. It's fun to say, but I think he's pretty well rounded. He doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, but um, his strengths is the same thing. Like his strengths are anything like, oh my god, like we need to get him. He's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's a jack of all trades, master of none. So I feel like his defense is just okay, which kind of concerns me. But again, college defense is hard to gauge whether it'll translate or not. Yeah, he averaged 17.7 points a game, so he can score. He shot pretty good percentages as well. So he does seem like a relatively safe pick, even if he doesn't turn into a star. I think, um, I'd be fairly confident that he'd be a good role player. If not in his rookie year, then maybe 1 or 2 years later. Maybe a starter caliber in a couple of years, but I don't know if he'll be a star. But most people at that range don't really turn into stars anyway, so that might not be the best metric to judge him by. But yeah, my biggest concern is defense, and he just seems to like have potential to be a good defender. He's not really that good right now. So, it's not an ideal pick, but it's definitely probably one of our better options at 7. 7's such a tough spot because I feel like the top 3 are one tier, then 4 to 6 are one tier, and then 7 is where it's like a little bit step down, and there's so much more uncertainty compared to the top 6. But I think
It's kind of like 7 through like 12 or 13 are all pretty
they're
even.
all pretty equal, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he would probably be my pick at 7, but again, I don't love it. He's just good.
Well, to me, I have watched him. When he played Oregon, I watched him. He's a really good spot up shooter, catch and shoot shooter. He's a really good shooter. He kind of there was times it's weird that I say I don't watch college basketball, but then this is one of the guys that I did watch a decent amount on. There was times where he kind of reminded me of Curry a little bit. Now, I'm not saying he's good like great like Curry, but running off of screens and just constantly in motion. He's always coming off screens and he, catch and shoot right off the screen, and it didn't matter if someone was closing out on him or not or fighting over the screen. He still was a really good shooter. Things could change. He could get better. He could get worse. And like I said, also he's really athletic. So he was a pretty good cutter. Actually, I'd say better than pretty good. I'd say he's a really good cutter. He can jump. He can lob. I mean, everything offensively is there. Defensively, I do think because he's athletic enough and he's a decent sized guy, I think he could develop defensively. But once again, like I said, it's going to be a development process. It's not going to be like a impact immediately type of guy. So for me, if we do use 7, that's the pick that I would like. Besides Keegan Murray falling to us, but to me, that's the pick we take.
Yeah, I think I'm probably on the same page. I'm not as high on him as I think you might be. Another guy that's projected in our range, but we talked about it, neither of us know much about him, is Dyson Daniels. Just looking at his page right now, it says he's 6'7.5", so it's a good height, but he's a shooting guard. He's only 19. His numbers don't look overly impressive, but there must be something about him if he's mocked that high. That's someone I'll probably look into a little bit more as we get closer to the draft. But yeah, so I think my order would probably be Mathurin. You said it's pronounced Sohan.
Sohan, yep.
Okay. I'd probably have
the C silent.
Okay. I'd probably have him as my second if Mathurin's gone, which is really unlikely. But yeah, if Keegan Murray somehow falls, I think without any hesitation, we pick him. Shaden Sharp is another one. It's very slim chance that he's there when we get to 7, but if he is there, I don't love the fit for him on our team. But I think he might be too good to pass up. Like maybe we can get him and trade him later. Or maybe we can just keep him as a developmental, like past Dame's, past Dame's prime, like 5 years down the line. But he's probably not going to fall to us anyways. So
he's probably got the most upside out of the players that could be there.
If Murray or Sharp are there, I would take whichever one is there, but more than likely neither of them will be there. So I guess Mathurin. But I guess this is a good point to transition into our next thing. I don't like the confidence at 7, so I would rather trade down. That's something I hope we explore. So one thing that a lot of people are trying to talk about, I don't know if the Hornets will go for it, but trading 7 for 13 and 15 would be really interesting. Even if we have to throw in the 36th pick, so 7 and 36 for 13 and 15. I think that's something that would be really interesting. How do you feel about that?
So for me, like I stated a little bit earlier, I think our best move is to trade down. I think to get multiple picks, to use one of those picks plus something else for Jeremy Grant is the right move, and then using one of the other picks either for a pick or trying to do something else with that pick. Like we kind of said, the players that are in this draft after like the top 5, 6, they're good players, but it's like if we're wanting to win now, it's not the type of players we need. So for me, and I think what I saw when I said earlier that Charlotte might want to trade up to get Duran is this exact, like this could be that situation where we trade them 7 and maybe the Milwaukee pick, or whatever it has to be to add a little to it to get 13 and 15. To me, that's what I mean. If that's on the table, I would take that trade. Unless Keegan Murray's there, I would take that trade. So to me, that to me, even if it's not Charlotte and it's OKC, and I can't exactly remember what number picks they have.
30th and 2 as well, but neither of those are of interest to us.
Yeah. So even them, if it's like worst case scenario, I still would like to try to do that trade to get Jeremy Grant. But with that being said, do you want to add anything on the trade, that specific trade itself right there?
That specific one, not really. Like you said, trade one of them for Grant, maybe use the other one. It does suck that like the guys that we do like would probably not go further than 10 or 11, so we just missed the guys we just talked about. But it would probably still be a decent pick at 13 or 15, whichever one we kept. But yeah, that's pretty much all.
Yeah, so I want to shout out the Legend of Tyler on Reddit. When I put out on Reddit that we wanted to see like some trade scenarios that they would like for our pick, and he was actually the first one to suggest it, and that's kind of where me and Fawad have been on this whole draft process. Is if we didn't get a top 4 pick, we thought the best pick would be to trade away because to me, honestly, I think it's going to be the top 4, and Keegan Murray's going to be the 4th pick in there.
Yeah,
Or, maybe he's 3 and Chet falls to 4. I don't know.
think
Although I did hear a rumor that Orlando wanted to take him at 1. So
I heard that too.
So shout out to the Legend of Tyler on Reddit. But there was a couple other ones on here that we wanted to go over. So first things first, I wanted to go over this one because it's been kind of I've seen it as of late, and I'm not the biggest fan of. Actually, I'm not a fan of it at all. I wouldn't even suggest that I'm kind of a fan of it. The suggestion was that I've been seeing a lot lately is us trying to get Julius Randle. First and foremost, I don't want Julius Randle. I think we've talked about him once before. I honestly can't remember if I said I wanted him back then or not, but I'll tell you right now, I don't want him. His contract is way up there, and I don't think that's the type of player that we need to get. But before we go into it, let me just say someone said we could do this trade, and this is all speculation. I don't even know if the money works. I'm assuming it probably does, but we would receive Julius Randle and Jeremy Grant. The Knicks would get Bledsoe, Winslow, and the number 7 pick, and the Pistons would get the number 11 pick and Keon Johnson.
So essentially, we give up 7 Bledsoe, Winslow, Keon. We get Randle and Grant,
which is not terrible. Straight player to player, it's not a terrible trade. But I don't like Julius Randle on our team. Let me ask you this, and you might not even know the answer to this. If we do that trade and we get Grant and Randle, we can't re-sign Nurk, right?
No, I'm pretty sure we can.
We could, because Randle's contract is so high, and Grant.
I don't have his contract on me.
I guess we could go on the luxury for it. I didn't even think about that.
I don't think we'd. I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked at our books, but I don't think we would be that close to luxury tax. And I think Bledsoe and Winslow probably cover Randle because I think he's just at the start of his contract, so it's only, I want to say 25, 27. So Bledsoe, Winslow combined.
Yeah, I'm dumb. I forgot about Bledsoe. soon as you said that, I remembered Bledsoe was in there.
And then Grant will probably fit into our trade exception if we.
Yep, the trade exception. Yep.
So yeah, I don't think money wise it's a big issue. I'm with you. I don't like Randle. I don't want him on our team. I don't like his attitude. I don't think he's that good of a player. And worst of all, I don't like this specific trade either because Randle and Grant. I don't think there's any point of getting both of them. I think Grant can play the 3, but he's better suited as a 4 in my opinion. So,
yep.
And Randle is obviously a 4 or a 5 as well. So, I don't like that trade at all.
Yeah, so shout out to No Heroes PDX. He was the one that brought that one up. I like the Grant side. Not the biggest fan of the Randle side. I know a lot of people are either for it or they're against it. It sounds like me and Fawad are both against Randle to us. So to me, that's a no-go. But I don't get to make those decisions. There was one other one I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah. Okay. So shout out to Rose Garden Forever. He kind of broke it down a lot. So I kind of wanted to go over it. So he gave us a couple different scenarios. If we do decide to take it, obviously the very first thing he says, if Murray falls, that's right there who we take. But he's also high on Sohan and Mathurin. He said, probably the best path for the future leaves some questions about winning with Dame, but you probably have a decent player on a rookie scale deal, which is nice, which is true. And that's what we were just saying. If we do pick these type of players, it's more we have them to develop, and they're going to be on good contracts. And if they develop into something good, then we have them on a cheap contract. Do you have anything you want to add on to that?
Onto that, no.
Okay. The next thing he said is trade down, find a partner like the Hornets or the Thunder to trade down, which we just kind of talked about. He said, who knows if these trades are even available, but like we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, Charlotte might get a little desperate and see that they could get Duran at 7 and want to make that trade. But he did suggest this, and it's not something that I kind of thought about at all, and it's a possibility, is just to trade out of the pick altogether. Just trade out of the first round and try to get proven players. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's the thing that's been suggested, or not suggested, but people are hoping that we don't do it in trading 7 for Grant. And
I agree.
there's yet another report that we are potentially considering doing that, and that made me sick to my stomach because I do want Grant, but not for the 7th pick, not at all. So I hope that doesn't happen. But trading out of the first round, like in a vacuum, I don't mind that at all, as long as for a player that's better than Grant. The article, like again, that came out today, it did mention that we are looking at other options other than Grant, and then Casey Holdall also echoed that on Twitter that the other options, quote unquote, are being rumored more and more. We don't know what those other options are, but if there is someone better than Grant that we can get for 7, I'd be open to that, but not for Grant.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking about Grant a lot lately. And don't get me wrong, I would gladly welcome him to our team. But like you just said, if there's a better option, trading 7 for that other option is to me worth doing. It's not like we have to get Grant. Like it's the only move that we have to make right now. I think it is a good move if we do it, but I'm not like it's a do or die. We have to get Grant or else it's a lost off season.
Yeah.
So
Well,
trading out is a possibility. I just, like you said, I hope it's not for Grant only.
yeah. Although I was gonna say I do fear that Joe Cronin might think that Jeremy Grant is the one like that decides whether our offseason is good or not. I just hope he doesn't get that desperate or something. But I guess we'll just wait and see for that.
And then he suggested one more scenario, and it's actually interesting that truly we haven't really talked about it at all. And it's one of the most simple ones, just trading up in the draft. He says it's probably the least likely option, which I agree. It probably is the least likely. But and he mentions this too. The only thing that I could see worth trading up for is if we could make some kind of trade with Sacramento for the 4th pick to try to get Keegan Murray. I don't think it happens. I don't think there's anything Sacramento would really want besides a player named Dame. I mean, maybe they would want Simons, but
Hey, don't
to
overestimate
me,
the Kings.
that's true. That's true. It is the Kings. To me, I don't think it's worth trading up into the first round or the first couple picks. I don't think what we'd have to give up to get that would be worth doing. Honestly, I don't think trading up to the Kings is worth doing either, just to get Keegan Murray. But that is an option.
I wouldn't mind trading up with the Kings if it's only for 7 and 36 to get 4. I think that's a fair trade. But yeah, other than that, like while it would be nice to have a higher pick, adding more assets onto that is probably not worth it, especially since even the top guys have some concerns with all of them too. So,
I just don't think that Sacramento would want to give up 4th pick for 7 and 36. I mean, let's think if it was the other way around. If it was us with the 4th pick, would we give it up for 7 and 36? Probably not. Unless they were like dead set on not picking Murray at 4, then they're thinking they can get AJ Griffin at 7 or whoever they had. But shout out. I know I already said it, but Rose Garden Forever. Thank you for breaking all 4 of those down. Really, I'm gonna be honest with you. This might be the first time we put something on Reddit and got like actual legitimate, like good responses and not people just trolling us. So it was nice to see Reddit's got some nice people out there. No, I'm just kidding. Reddit does have a lot. There's a lot of good conversations that happens on Reddit. There's also some toxic stuff that happens on Reddit. Anything else you want to add? Any players you want to talk about? Any scenarios you want to go over?
Yeah, we talked about the 13 and 15, and we briefly talked about OKC at 12. And I think it was in our Discord someone suggested it, but if Thunder were somehow willing to trade Lou Dort, I think that would be really interesting.
Oh, I do remember seeing that. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Like for example, if it was either like 7 and the Bucks pick for Dort and 12, I think that would be something that's really interesting. Then maybe we either keep 12 or flip that for Grant, and then if we could have Dort and Grant, I think that would be a pretty good off season for us, or at least a good trade for us. So yeah, that could be really interesting. And then if we keep 12, we can probably get Sohan or maybe someone else in that range that's good too. Then another thing I was looking at, which is less likely, but it's probably my favorite choice if we could get it, trading with the Spurs. They have the 9th, 20th, and 20. No, at 9, 20, and 25. If they were willing to do 9 and 20 for 7, I think that would be really interesting and really fun. We would only move down 2 spots, and I would be more comfortable picking any of those guys at 9 compared to 7. Like Mather and Sohan, if either of them are available, I would be more than happy with them at 9. And then with that 20th, maybe the Pistons are still interested in trading Grant for that. Maybe we'd have to throw in the 36th or the Bucks pick, but 20 and then the Bucks pick, maybe that's enough to get Grant. So if the Spurs are interested in 9 and 20 for 7, I think that would be really interesting. Even if not, and they would do 9 and 25, I think that would still be worth exploring if 13 and 15 doesn't work out.
And I did find what you were talking about in Discord. It looks like it was a tweet that someone put out, and Dame liked it, and it says exactly what you just said. Us getting Lou Dort and Jeremy Grant for the 7th pick. Obviously, there'd have to be something else going to Detroit to get Grant, but I guess this probably would guess the 7th pick is going to Detroit for Grant, and then does it say what they're getting for Dort? I don't
have
see
it on
anything.
me right now, so
Yeah, sorry, I don't see it either. But apparently, it was something Dame liked. It is interesting. Another thing we haven't talked about, and we'll save it for another podcast, is the mass hysteria around DeAndre Ayton. And honestly, Zach LaVine. I know we talked about a little bit already, but that's another thing where there's rumors of either one of them coming to us. So I think we can save that for another podcast and talk about that if things heat up. We've in our Twitter Spaces we had, which we haven't done a podcast since then, have we?
nope.
Okay. So to the people that did come join our Twitter Spaces, we appreciate it. We had a good time talking with everybody. We're looking to do it more often. I enjoyed it. We had some good conversation in there. So if you guys haven't joined, next time we do one, we'll make sure to kind of post it all out again and get everybody in there again and talking. Is there anything else you want to talk before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So with that being said, I know last episode we said we had a big surprise and it's huge. It's really, really big. And trust me when I say this, it's killing us not to be able to say anything. But I do want to say something. I do want to give a little taste of what's to happen. And let me preface this by saying things could change and it could not happen. I'm not saying it is going to happen for 100% sure, but as of right now, what we have pretty well confirmed, we just don't have a date yet, is we are lucky enough, we are privileged enough to get an assistant coach for the Trailblazers to come and talk with us. Fawad and I are super, super excited. Coach Curry said she would gladly come and talk with us. She's a very, very busy woman. Just like hearing from other interviews, just her past experiences and everything. Without a doubt, I know she is a busy woman, and if she's not able to, do it, we totally understand. But as of right now, we have a yes from her. We've talked to her a couple times, and she does seem like she does want to do it. So we are really excited. We're eagerly awaiting, and hopefully it's very soon. But like I said, things could change, and we totally understand. But that's just part one of our surprise. We're gonna leave part two still kind of in the dark for right now. But part one, very excited to at least get a little bit of it out there. Do you have anything you want to add on that?
Nope. Yeah, I was just really excited when we spoke to her. But yeah, again, it's not confirmed. That's why we kind of didn't reveal anything. We wanted to wait until it is confirmed. But yeah, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, we've got a couple yeses from her, so I feel pretty confident that we are going to do it. It might just be a while, and if it doesn't happen, like I said, we totally understand. But at least now you guys know part one of our surprise is we will be interviewing Coach Curry, and we're extremely excited and extremely thankful, and hopefully it happens here soon. Other than that, everybody that's listening, I hope you have a good night. Or well, if you're listening in the morning, I hope you have a good morning. If not, I hope you have a good night. And as always, Rip City, baby.